G'day Beaks and Beaks to Bee. Are you curious about learning more about beekeeping?
I have been a beekeeper for over 55 years and rearing queen bees since the 1980s. What we have got here is from the base right through to the tie-down straps. All the different sections on my right side is full depth honey production hives, and on the left is nucleus hives. On the far side you'll see little ladders on the floor of the base. That is telling me that the risers are too deep. The next one to the left is a vented base that will only last about 3 or 4 times through the irradiation plant before it falls apart. I have a couple of experimental hives. I find too much debris on the floor, on the ground, which I consider can be a problem with small hive beetle, wax moth grubs, or other bees robbing the remnants, so I prefer solid bases, which is a dead material and does not rot.
Risers, around about 11 millimetres, no more than 12. We try to work around about 11 millimetres.
That one's just over 12, and that's why they built ladders. You see the little mounds? That means the bees, it's too big for them to walk up. So they actually have to build little bits, and that's why it's got so much little drips and drops on it. Whereas if they have the risers the right space, bee space, no more than 11, you don't get that problem.
10 millimetre in Queensland is, especially with just the whole fence, is too narrow. They get overheated very, very quickly.
This here is a nucleus base. It's a purchased one, and the purchased ones only have a cross member at the front and the back. We like to have the full length from front to back, not across.
This one here only sits on the rails on that point there and that point there. Depending whether you tie it down, what angle it is, the slope, it could slide off. So that's what you be careful of. The other problem you get was the bought ones. That is the Bernie board. It's a type of WeatherTex anyway.
Yep.
But if you put an M-lock around there, that'll start to damage the corners.
I like to have my entrances with what I call a 707 landing board. It's an extended area for when the heavily loaded nectar-carrying bees come into land, they don't miss it.
So on top of that, you've got your first super. That's your brood box. We'll just go through this quickly from now and then. So on top of your base, you have your brood box. That's a nuke box that goes on your nuke. Then you've got your different types of excluders. There's a whole range of excluders that we find the wire ones are the best, but you've got to be very, very careful when you're working your hives, especially with your hive tool, so that you don't spread those wires. If you spread those wires, allow the queen to get through, all hell breaks loose. It'll take you 2 or 3 hours to find that queen, and sure as eggs, she'll be on the last bloody frame that you look at, every time.
Here you see a plastic excluder, also a wire excluder.
They're about half the cost of what the metal ones are. This is one that's been cut down. That's for one of our 5-frame nukes. These here that you see here are 4-frame nukes. So for the one person that's only got 1 or 2 hives, the plastic extruder would probably be sufficient. But when you put them back together again, and we'll show later afterwards when we put all this together, you've got to make sure that your queen is not up the top of your frames, because after a while that plastic extruder will buckle.
Have a look at this one.
Like this one here.
I've got this one here to show you, yeah, that exact thing. They're more hassle than they're worth. Go steel from the start.
So that's your first one. Then you've got the excluder, so queen can't get above into your honey supers. Then you've got your next super, under super with a sticky or foundation, and you can take that whole 9 frames off in one foul swoop. You know, that's been the radiation plant. That come back yesterday. So that's and all our hives have got the numbers on the back and front. With our honey hives, it'll have a bigger number. That's a honey super there also, but all our honey hives is a thicker number, and it's only on the back. It's not on the front. But our honey supers are all front and back, and a smaller number.
So when you send the stickies, you send them in the box?
Oh yeah, just like that, except for the tray. That they get wrapped in the plastic like Lionel said.
If supers are not irradiated, there is a lot of extra work required to check small hive beetle larva and wax moth grubs every 7 days before they're put back on the hives.
There's a wax moth grub.
Whereabouts?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we put those in a different what's that, didn't we?
Yeah, we put them up on the rack.
Yeah. This is the one that was second on the floor.
Yep. We'll save that for day 3.
Yeah.
There'll be other examples.
That's a wax moth grub there, and those eggs can lay dormant for over 12 months.
So guys, storage of stickies we'll talk about heavily on day 4, I think.
Yeah.
If you extract your honey, put them in a box and leave them for a month, you'll come back, there'll be nothing left.
Yep, there's nothing left. Yep.
The eggs that are in your stickies at all time of pests are phenomenal. And that's why radiation can destroy those pests as well. So imagine if you had 50 stickies sitting there in a container and you left them for a month, you come back, all your combs would be dead. All gone from wax moth or small hive beetle or something. Because the eggs are there at all times.
And
If you radiate them, can you then store them for long?
Yeah.
Indefinitely.
Yeah.
Indefinitely.
I've had supers radiated. I didn't use for 9 months. One was a seal with paper top or glad wrap or whatever, but totally sealed. Not so much glad wrap because the cockies can chew holes in glad wrap. But this is the way we seal. We put them on, or another tray. Instead of putting the skateboard on top, we'll put another tray on the top.
Yeah. You can store them for a century after being irradiated. Nothing will get in.
As long as nothing can get in.
That's right. That's the golden rule.
That's the main thing.
Yep.
Here you see a whole range of different types of lids. This lid has 4 1-inch holes in it, or 25mm, and I consider not sufficient for Queensland climate.
Lids here are my design, 1985 vintage, and I haven't lost a hive through small hive beetle since the incursion in 2000. That's a standard size.
Why do you put the mesh on the outside and the outside?
Well, logic. Getting back to logic. You put it on the inside, the bees will populise it.
Yeah.
What they will do is they will populise this inside here, and you just get your hive tool and just cut it straight out, and you let know. Generally, the occasional one will do it, depending on the hybrid queen and bees.
The dark material there
Yeah.
on the outside.
Yeah, that's all populous there.
But all the off-shelf ones are meshed on the inside, aren't they?
Yeah. Now we've also got these here. This is what we call a lid come base. So we can get out the road so you can see. So we can have a nucleus hive. We'll do it down here probably easiest. Right, so we can have a nuke with an entrance facing that way. We can go up a second story with another nuke and a queen facing the other way. Then if we tie it down to the stand, we can have another one of these facing the other way. So we can go 4 high. About 20. We have one facing that way, the next one facing that way, the next one facing that way. Just alternate them for the whole stand.
Yep.
So if you didn't have that, you would have to have what 10 stands.
And double the equipment.
That's double the equipment.
So they're all nukes, they're not supers on top.
Yeah, that's a super.
A nuke super.
That's a nuke super.
They're all separate colonies. Colony 1, colony 2, colony 3,
colony
colony
four.
4.
But
Separate colonies.
You've got to have a tie underneath your stand, otherwise a bit of wind.
We use that in level 3 queen rearing.
Yep.
So you can have 3 colonies in one stack, rather than one. Otherwise you're spreading out all across the field.
Could you use that for normal nuke rearing?
For
You
queen,
just mentioned that for queen, but would you use that for normal
as
nuke?
soon as they build up into second, you've got to kind of take them down. Otherwise you'll have a tower. Yeah. So they work until they're a single, and then no more.
It's
Yep.
just a safe place.
And we'll show you down there when you see it. When you see it with live bees, it makes so much more sense. Yep.
Right, and so this is a full vented lid. So you purchase a 4-frame nuke, you need a tie around it, and so it's for transportation. Bees generate an enormous amount of heat, and you can suffocate, especially a triple hive, within 20 minutes. If you haven't got full ventilation, if ever you buy a full hive, it's best to make one of these full vented lids up, so you put on top, so you don't kill your bees.
Yep. If someone was to come buy a nuke, With a 4-frame lid with one little hole in the front and one little hole in the back, I wouldn't sell it to them.
You wouldn't be taking them.
They'd be dead before they're in the car.
Yep.
They'd overheat that quick. They've got to have a transport lid. Yeah.
And of course, the last, but not near the last, is your rain hoods. And these are 100mm longer than what your front and back, so that you don't get rain in. And just a touch wider than what the same is, your lid is. That's one for your nukes, and like the last but not least is M-lock. We use M-locks to tie everything down with. Because if you're doing 3 and 4 high, you can't rely on stones, otherwise the wind, especially if you're out in the overlook, and your hive will split.
You put that over the rain.
It goes right around the whole lot. Especially if you got these normal lids, you'll find sometimes, especially in the hot weather, you'll need to put a 12mm or 1/2 inch piece of timber or whatever underneath your lid. Lift your lid if you're high numbers of bees, so that if they start to hang out, they'll go back inside. Because the heat in there, you find those small vents will be clogged up anyway. But if you look here, this is the standard hole. This is 25mm. But have a look at the gauze that's there. That's, by the time you take the thickness and the size of the hole into consideration, there's probably only the equivalent of about a 1/2 inch hole if you're lucky. So that's your other problem.
And then they propolise them up and...
Yep. And they don't work.